Mani, I think the panelists are here. We can maybe uh, start. We can maybe start with the introductions.
Sure, Anu, sure. Just a second. Teresa and Adya, you guys can also come on video. Anu, Teresa is still not available on video. I can't see her. You can maybe ask her once.
Okay, so I think she's joined. Teresa, are we audible to you? Yeah, she's here.
Oh, she's great. Okay. Hello, everyone. So, law is an attractive profession with a wide scope, but it requires an equally good amount of hard work with no shortcuts. So, in case you're thinking to apply for a law school or are waiting for your first semester classes to begin or are just keen to know how things work at a law school, this webinar is definitely for you. To discuss the life of a law student, we have with us three students, both from government and private law colleges. So, our first panelist, Teresa Dhar, is a fifth year law student at Chanakya National Law University. The second panelist is Adya Gupta, who is a fourth year student at OP Jindal Global Law School. And the third panelist is Ayumi Sharma, who is also a fourth year law student at OP Jindal Global Law School. Hi Teresa, hi Adya, and hi Ayumi. My name is Mani, and I extend a very warm welcome to all of you. All right, so let's start. We'll start with a few basic questions and we'll keep exploring the depths of this field as we go along. So let's start with Adya. Adya, did you face any difficulty while adjusting to the law school culture or academic routine when you first joined your college?
Hi, Mani. I'm happy to be here. So when I joined law school, it was a very exciting time. It was also very confusing. I still wasn't sure about my decision, but yes, of course, the culture is very different because most of us come from CBSE schools, and when you learn over there, it's ratta, and then you vomit it onto your exam sheet, and then you forget, and then you go to the next year, which is how most of us learn. But in law school, I think through the first year, you go through re-education on how to study, how to learn, and also how to interact with your professors. Because if you're lucky and you have really great professors, the dynamics is completely different compared to high school. And there's a lot of room to grow. So you relearn everything, I think, when you get out of high school and you realize that how much you know is just, you've just begun and there's a lot more to do. So I think you have to be open to learning. You have to, because you can't do ratta anymore. You have to understand your subject. You have to be able to use it, meaningfully. And I think that's an interesting process. But you can't resist it or be scared. You have to be open and take it as a challenge, is what I would say.
Okay. And Teresa, what about you?
First of all, good afternoon, Mani, and good afternoon, everyone. Warmest welcome to this webinar. So you'll have to repeat that question again for me.
Yeah, so the question is, did you face any difficulty while adjusting to the law school culture or the academic routine when you first joined your law school?
Okay, so first of all, regarding adjustment to the law school in itself, yes, I would say traveling from one state to another to pursue academics. I think there was this one cultural shock that I faced, definitely. Regarding the academic routine, no, I think it's the same for most NLUs, for most law universities, the same as school. You have these allotted time, 1 hour, half an hour for each subject and everything. So in that sense, it's the same thing, right? From 9 to 1, 9 to 2, whatever, you have your academic subjects, and after that you have your co-curriculars, extracurriculars, whatever. So that isn't much of a difference. But yes, being a hostelier, I think that is where the experience was very different, very broad, very diverse when you started pursuing these extracurriculars. Because after while in school you had these classes and then you came back home, tuition, whatever, that's what you did. But then in college you hang out with your friends after classes, you go for dep socs, MUNs, whatever, you practice all this, you just hang out, and there's this, you're chilling around with everybody. So yeah, that is where it's different. So yeah, I had a bit problem adjusting initially. There was this cultural shock, but then gradually you got it. It grew on me, and we all adjusted and everything.
Okay, all right. So Ayumi, I would like to change my question a little bit for you. So I would like to ask you, what was your initial impression of a law school, and if it has changed over the last 4 years?
So initially, I was very in love with the idea of law school. I think it was a little high school me perspective that, I was going out into the real world and I had to manage everything. And it's sort of also because we have a residential campus. I think it's a lot of independence and responsibility, because you are responsible for everything that you do, the studying, everything. And law school is not, like Adya said, it's not rote learning anymore. You have to analyze everything. You have to adjust to living with so many people, interacting with so many people. You have a larger class. And of course, you have to unlearn everything you learned in high school, which is hilarious on some level. Because they literally told us in our first class that unlearn everything you learned till now, because this is new.
Okay.
So, then I think it's slowly you kind of stop being so naive with everything. I think I was a little naive in the first year. I thought that, everything was going to be smooth and I would just fall in love with law and I would study it and I would be happy with what I was doing. But I think you start to question along the way about what you're doing. And of course, I'm in my 4th year, so I've started questioning whether I'm doing the right thing or not, and what I'm going to do after this, because we're very new to graduation now. So
right.
I think that has changed, but I think I'm still in love with law as much as I was in my first year, which is thankfully a good thing, because I've seen a lot of people change their field because they realize it's not their thing anymore, which is fine. Also.
People fall out of it, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, like you mentioned that it's towards your turn. You're going towards the end of your degree. So that brings me to my second question, which is, so when do you guys think is the right time to decide on the future career path, whether you want to get into academics, become a lawyer or a consultant, or anything else? So let's start with Teresa this time.
Yeah, naturally, because I am definitely in my ultimate year, the 5th year, and I'm gonna graduate in a couple of months. So ideally, you're supposed to know what you're gonna do with your life in first year. That's what they say. And the irony is, I'm in my 5th year and I'm still trying to figure out what I'm gonna do, because it's not as straightforward as they say. It's not either law, mainstream litigation or corporate or whatever that they say. It's not that. Law is one field where you have plethora of options, and I have found myself because I felt that maybe law is not my cup of tea, or maybe you could do something different with it, which is why I decided that maybe I'm going to pursue legal journalism. So not kind of change my career altogether, but yes, utilize my degree to some extent. But yeah, I would like to pursue legal journalism, because I don't think that mainstream litigation or corporate is something that resonates with my interest. So ideally, again, it should be in your third, fourth year when you should know, because honestly, in your first year, you're not supposed to know what you're gonna be, because
Right.
you have not ventured in, you do not know what the options are in the first place. Gradually, as you
Correct.
intern, as you explore your avenues, then you realize that what you're getting into. So yes, third, fourth year, by that you should know, and by fifth year, you should not be like me. You should definitely know what you're doing. You should have an idea of what you're getting into. So yeah.
Okay. And Ayumi, what about you? Have you decided on a career path yet?
I thought I had. I thought I decided on
Yeah.
litigation. It changed midway through this year, and I realized that I wanted to not do litigation anymore. I think I want to eventually. It's just, I think, in a corporate field, because I'm also taking in account everything that is happening. I've talked to a lot of lawyers. I've tried to decide what I want to do further, because my internships they depend on my decision after graduation, right? I have to decide my internships on the basis of that. So if I decide to do litigation, then those internships are just litigation. If I decide to do corporate, then I do corporate internships. So, but because of the pandemic, those choices have changed, because litigation stopped being the main career in law. Corporate is now becoming it. So I realized that maybe I should try corporate litigation, which is also litigation. I'm doing the same thing, but in a different context. So I think that's how it's changed. It's a little bit of change, I guess.
Right, right. Adya, what about you? Do you have a fixed career path, or would you like to tell us what's the best time to, select a career path, that this is what I want to do in future? Or do you think there's an impact of pandemic on the choices of students who are currently pursuing it?
I joined law because I went to school, a boarding school in the hills, and you would see there's a lot of development going on. So we would just see trees getting cut, and the environment would grow more toxic by the day. I mean, that's nothing compared to Delhi. And I joined law school because I wanted to use my knowledge to help something that I was passionate about, which is the environment. And also now I've expanded my interest to public policy and health, um, reproductive knowledge. Also, law is a tool so you can actually use it for something that you're passionate about. And I think that environment law and public policy is where I want to concentrate. But that being said, I think there's a lot of pressure always to know what you're going to do. And everyone's like, oh, have you decided yet? Is this where you're going to work? Sab ho gaya, all sorted. And one good thing about law is that when you're done with your basic 5-year BA LLB degree, you can always segue into, you can combine two things that you're passionate about. People now are doing, if you're passionate about design, you can work at a firm that does designing and do their legal work for them. So you're also getting a little bit of exposure to something that you're passionate about. So I think that you can keep on changing your interests. But until now, I've tried interning with a few firms, and I think I'm still figuring out. But these are the two fields that I do want to focus on for right now. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And since you talked about pressure, okay, so did you guys at any point feel that there was too much pressure in this field, or that you were not able to tackle with it? And if you did, if you did felt that, how did you guys come out of that thought? Ayumi, let's start with you this time.
I think yes, sir. So there is a lot of pressure, and especially now, I think 4th and 5th year is when the pressure just suddenly rises, because you have to decide everything in the next 2 years, 1 year, whatever. And it also causes a lot of mental health issues. I've realized a lot of my batchmates have a lot of issues, and you have to find a way to balance it, because you're also doing so many different things. For example, I'm doing at least 4 things right now, which is a lot to balance. And it sometimes I'm so overwhelmed, because I'm like, how am I supposed to do every single thing and be good at it too? I think you just have to find a way to schedule and be organized. So last semester, I think I realized that you can be organized and just plan out your deadlines in a way which are convenient for you and you get done on time. You have to be really organized in order to manage the multiple things that you're doing. Otherwise, then you focus on one thing and do it well. You decide whatever works for you.
Okay. Okay, Teresa, I have a different question for you. So, like you told me that you were studying in the hostel, and so do you think groupism based on community exists in law school hostels? And if yes, how do students or you have dealt with it?
Talking of groupism, first of all, I don't think there's anything wrong because with groupism as such, because generally you are not, I mean, yeah, you can be acquainted with one and all, but it is very few people that you feel that, okay, these people match my mental wavelength, and these are the people I want to have close to me, right? But if it
Right,
transgresses into something hostile or something where you're having fights and there's hooliganism, like, oh no, my group is better, your group is better, that is obviously, for lack of better word, crap. So groupism, as long as it's positive in the sense, like, you know, how this study group happens and all this, which is fine. You have, like, I myself have this close knit of circle, this close circle of people with whom I can discuss certain things, and this other circle with whom I can discuss other things. So you don't generally have ways to tackle that. Isn't you try to be friends with any one and all, because that's one of the perks of a national law university or law university, that people of all groups, it's a diverse, it's a place of diversity. You meet people of all kinds, you get to meet people of all kinds, and then you decide whether you want to be friends with everybody or you want to, have your own circle and everything. So I don't
right.
think that in itself is a problem. I think it's a pretty good thing that we have here. So depending on our own depending on our own likes, our interests, and our disinterests, we choose people who we want to keep close. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, so since Teresa spoke to us on behalf of National Law Universities, would Ayomi, you or Adya, anything to add from any of your side if you have been a hostelier?
Yes, I was in hostel. I was in a
Okay.
boarding school. Then I went to Jindal. And I think by the time you're in 12th grade, if you're a lot of times girls have very toxic high school experiences. There's a lot of,
Okay.
people are really not nice, and sometimes there's a lot of bullying. There are a lot of challenges in high school, and I think when you
Right.
go to college, you want to be done, with the drama, because you want to focus on what actually matters, work and friendship.
Right.
So when you come to law school, a lot of people actually think like this, and you find people who want to grow and make new relationships, and there's no time for drama. There's so much better to do. So I think that
Correct.
it's not.
Too much pressure to handle.
Yes. And with groupism, I think it's not really I'm going to be friends with people who are from my area. They can also be a big support for you. Okay, if you don't know what to do and you need help or you need suggestions, you have a lot of people who you can ask. And because there are people from everywhere, from South India, from all corners of India, you get a lot of different perspectives, and you get to hear about people who have lived their lives very differently from yours. So you figure out, okay, this is something I want to do. Yeah.
I am sure. I am sure. Okay, so how many classes in general are held in a day? Ayumi, let's start with you.
So,
Basics. Yeah.
So this semester we had, so our week was pretty full because we had 4 core courses and 2 electives. So which meant around 2 classes per day on an average. Sometimes there were more, sometimes there were less. And sometimes there was like one day in the week where you had like 3 classes. So
Okay.
you kind of manage and you figure out that one day it's going to be hectic and it's going to be a lot on your mind. Yeah.
Yeah, and how many hours is one expected to study after the classes?
Regularly study? I think
Oh.
just kind of revise the day-to-day class lectures and just go through whatever slides they've sent you. The professor usually sends the slides after the class, whatever they've taught. And if you just go through it, I think it kind of cements the class in your brain, because otherwise you'll just get very overrun. Like we have our exams going on right now, and it's a lot to study in one go. So instead of doing that, you might still study every single day a little bit. So I think it's sort of, if you give 1 hour every day just to go through your notes, I think you're good to go.
All right. So I think now that we have covered a few basic questions, we received a few questions from the student even before this webinar started. So let me just start directing one question to each one of you that we received from the students and try to cover as many questions as we can, since we have a long list of questions with us. So let's start with Teresa. If any one of you would like to add to it, you can just stop me in between and ask me to add your points. Okay, Teresa, this is a question from a student. Which law stream would be good if I want to practice it in abroad?
Do they mean the subject?
Maybe yes. Or maybe a
That
career path.
See, regarding the subject, it could be anything. You can study comparative constitutional law, you can go for public international law, you can go for specific international humanitarian law. Subject is depends with what resonates with the interest of the individual, right? As for what to do, I think, as in what career path to choose, I think it goes the same for like whether you go abroad. You can obviously opt for a corporate job there, or you can take the I don't know if it's permissible or not now, but you can take the bar exam and then practice in the courts there. You can a lot of people, a lot of my relatives are practicing in the firms there, and some of them have even gone for volunteering job, like voluntary legal or paralegal work. So these are some of the things. It depends. The person has to choose what particular subject interests them, and then what exactly, like whether they want to be an in-house counsel, or can do some freelancing work, or can just simply pursue a PhD or something of that sorts and go into an academic line. So depending on that person.
Okay. So
Just-
that answers our question. Okay,
Yeah.
the next question, Adya, maybe you can take it, since this question is more for a student who has not gotten into an NLU. So what must a student do if he fails to admit in NLU is our next question.
If you don't get into an NLU, you can one option is you decide and see if you want to wait a year and then you want to try again. Other than an NLU, there are also a lot of colleges in Maharashtra when you give the MHCET, and you can also go to Symbiosis is a great university. You can also try for a private law college as well. So just because you've not gotten into an NLU, of course they're great colleges, but it's not the end of the world. If you've not gotten in, it's all right. There are alternate options, which I think just do a lot. There's a lot of research available on the internet. Go and see. And also, just to add something small to the earlier question, intellectual property law is also a big focus in the US, and trademark law. We're also studying it this semester, and I think that's a big focus if you want to try looking at jobs abroad, as well as mergers and acquisitions.
Okay,
Can I
Ayumi,
add to that?
yeah, please, Teresa, please,
Yeah,
sure.
you're absolutely correct, Adya. Like, because I did not want to go into that specifics, but I also remembered one more field which is very upcoming, which is very lucrative, is something cryptocurrency, AI. These are things that are very relevant at this point of time, very relevant, and these are very lucrative as well. I mean, there is a great market out there if people do their research, do their homework, and they see what interests them. And also regarding that, if they don't get into an NLU, let me add to that as well. I personally feel that taking a drop year is something has proven to be very disadvantageous to many people. So I prefer, when a lot of people say that if I don't get into NLU, what should I do? As Adya said, yes, try for there are there are plethora of great private universities, Christ, Simbi, KIT. I mean, whichever, they all offer great law courses. Jindal is there, all of them are there. But I feel that they should not take a drop year to try for next year unless they're really hell bent on doing it. Because I feel when you graduate after 5 years, that is when you actually need the drop year. That's when you need a year to maybe think, right? So you can use,
Right.
instead of using that year, you can use it after your graduation to think what career you want to pursue. So
Okay.
Just
Okay.
to
So like
add a
you mentioned,
little point,
okay,
there's also
sure.
IP University. IP universities are available. They're also not that expensive, because I think a lot of people have a problem with private universities and their fees. So
Correct.
IP University is a great alternative to NLUs.
Okay. So Ayomi, like Teresa mentioned, that Christ and Symbiosis are two good options for law. I just saw a live question that came in from the chat box. A student is asking if he or she has an option between Christ and Symbiosis Law School, which is a better option. Would you like to take that up?
Yeah. So Symbiosis is definitely better. Christ is not focused on law, which is why Symbiosis is a separate law program, and it's well known. And it's a pretty well structured program, because I also explored the option of Symbiosis. So it was a great option amongst all my choices, and I chose to take Jindal, of course, but it is a great alternative.
Okay. Okay, Adya, the next question is for you. So the question is, does lawyers get a really good salary or they end up getting unemployed? I think this person is very, apprehensive of his or her choice.
I
So,
think
Adya,
that you can, of course. I mean, a lot of people do. A lot of my friends have joined law specifically because they want to do corporate law, and then they want to get a really big job in a top tier firm. But also, you have to think about how demanding those jobs are. You basically don't have it's your personal life is kind of non-existent. You're just working all the time. So while you can go after money, but that's not a long term plan. You do need to do something that you like. And if you're and no one is going to come to you with options. All of the students over here, you have to go out, you have to find options, you have to find people who do things you like. And if there are so many fields in law, you're going to end up making money in all of them. You're at least, even if you're not going to make a bomb, you're going to at least make enough to be able to live and help yourself, because it's a very technical subject, and everybody these days has some problem or the other that they need help with in law. it's
right.
it's unavoidable. Something will happen that you need to go to a lawyer for. And in filing taxes, something as simple as that. So you're going to end up making money in all of those places, is what I would say. So find something that you actually are passionate about doing, and there are a lot of options.
Okay. So the next question is, Teresa, why don't you take it since you're in the fifth year? So the question is it beneficial? Is it beneficial in doing MBA after LLB? So since you're in the final year and you must be exploring your options, why don't you take this up?
again, as I said, it depends on the interest of the person. They have to figure out what exactly they want to do with their life. If you're like one of those people who first join IIT, then go into IIM, then ultimately become a stand-up comedian, I don't have anything to say to you. But if you're actually interested in pursuing any career, say if you want to get a banking job abroad or some good job that is for which you need to do your MBA for, then do it. Otherwise, generally, what people do is if they want to further pursue academics after their LLBs, they generally go for LLM, right?
Yeah,
Otherwise, MBA is a good option as well, but that gives you more. That opens more avenues for you. But if you really want to stick to the legal studies and everything, then you can opt for your LLM.
okay, right. Right. So there's a next. question that says after law, what option is the best? So I think this is not a question that anybody can answer, because like Adya mentioned, there are a lot of fields and you need to know what you want to do to excel in it. So moving on to the next question, Ayomi, you can take this question up. The question is, what prompted you to study law? And is there a dilemma between constitutional safeguards and perception of society about it?
I think it was a lot of my exposure to law, at least, which was a huge factor in me choosing to study law. I'm going to be a second generation lawyer. So I've been surrounded with lawyers and just law in general all my life, which really interested me finally. So I went through a huge crisis in my in 12th, because I was still not able to decide what I want to do. I was still trying to decide between, medicine and law, because I'd taken up subjects according to both. And then because of all the pressure, it was mostly medicine. But I think I finally chose law because it's what I would, it's what I imagine myself doing and also liking it. Because finally it does, like Adya said, you have to do what you love by the end of the day. You're not going to enjoy what you do if you don't like it. And you're not going to continue doing it. So, and there was a second part of the question.
Yeah, the question was, is there a dilemma between constitutional safeguards and the perception of society about it?
I don't completely get that question.
So maybe the student is willing to ask that there are certain constitutional rights that every person gets, whether he is or wrong or he is right, and there's a perception about of the society about it. So how do lawyers, juggle in between?
I think at a certain point you stop juggling and you just make a decision of what you want to do, and you just pursue it. It finally, by the end of the day, it depends on what you want to do. It's as simple as that. You will not care about anything else if you enjoy one single thing. So you're gonna ignore all of it.
Maybe it's about just doing your job right. Correct? Okay. So, Adya, the next question is for you. The question is Indian LLB degree accepted in foreign countries? If yes, which one? Also, there are a lot of questions around which is a better degree, BBA LLB, BCom LLB, or BA LLB? Adya, you can take this question.
Okay. The Indian law degree is accepted in very few foreign countries. In the US, you need a JD. Even if you get a law degree from the UK, whose common law system is very similar to India, you have to come to India and pass the bar exam to be able to practice over here. So, because no country's jurisdictional laws will exactly ever be the same. And but that's the first question. And then secondly, what was the second question again? About
what's the difference between BBA LLB, BCom LLB, and BA LLB?
That depends. Coming straight out of high school, it depends on what your focus is. If you're very focused that you want to do a BBA, which has accounting and eco in it, and you want to do very specifically corporate laws, then you go ahead with that. If you're doing a BA, you have an option with more liberal arts subjects. There's pol science, you can branch out into more options. And I think BCom, I don't know, but I am under the impression it's very technical. So I think that you should choose the degree for you that gives you the most options. And if you are confused about what to do, start off by first saying, okay, this I don't want to do at all. This is something I'm not interested in. You take out those options. And you say, these two are left. And if I do a BA, what all options will this allow me to have? And then you make your decision. Yeah.
I think it's a good solution. You remove the things that you don't want to do first, and then opting for a better option out of the two. Yeah, nice. I really like the answer. Okay, so the next question is, what type of questions come in the entrance exam for LLB admission? Teresa, I think you can take this question. Teresa, can you hear me?
Oh, my bad. I forgot to unmute myself. Yeah, sorry.
No.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was saying that I took CLAT in 2017. So ever since that time, I think they've changed the pattern of the CLAT question paper. So I think at this point of time, what we used to have all MCQs, and they were not passage based just like they are right now, right? So if you realize, if you look into the last few couple of years question paper, these are passage based, which means they require more diverse reading from the side of the student, the aspirant. They require more analytical skills. They require that they should have span. They should be able to read quickly. They should be able to analyze what the passage says. They should be able to come to conclusions very quickly, which was not the case in our time. So we had very straightforward questions, right? So like for example, if we had, the general thing is we have English, then qualitative aptitude, I think quantitative aptitude, sorry. Then you have this legal part where they include questions from say IPCs, CPC, etc. And I think the most important one is current affairs. So the heading, the subject, the actual subjects are same as before, but the pattern has changed. Now, as I said, it's more passive. It's all of them are passage based. More that requires you to think on your feet, think very quickly. You should be able to read the passages quickly. You should be able to come to an answer very quickly, which is different from what ours was more. It was a bit rot and learn kind of type. Now it's more analytical. So yeah.
Okay. The next question is a little bit related, but a little bit different too. So Ayomi, you can take this question. What are the subjects one should be studying in school to pursue law as a career option, or to be excellent during their law career?
So I explored this option also because I was not able to decide what I want to do. So they do say, so a lot of people told me that you should do maths also because it will come in the entrance exam, which is true. And so I think maths is something which you should take up, and I think humanities. So in my 10th, so when I went to 11th, I was in a different school and I decided to take up a combination of maths, economics and humanities. So there were pol science, history, because political science definitely helps. History will also sort of help because if you're heading for BA LLB, of course, and if you have done commerce, then you should head for BBA LLB because most of the subjects are common. It'll really help because you sort of know the basics then, and you don't have to study that hard. But you can also take PCMB, which is a lot of people do that. I've seen they take up PCMB and then decide what they want to do later. So they
to keep their options
from that because they're headed for law, and you've done the very different subjects, which is not helpful. So I would say humanities with math is the best option, and economics, of course, because I think economics is a huge part of law at this point.
Okay. Adya, there was a live question that I just saw. The question is by Divesh. The question is there a difference between a lawyer and an advocate? If there's any difference, would you like to take this up?
Yes, a lawyer is somebody who's gotten a degree, but an advocate is somebody who is specializing in a particular field. For example, family law. So then you would be a divorce lawyer, you would be a divorce attorney, or you could be a corporate lawyer. And then an advocate is basically you specialize in a particular field. And just to add a small bit to the question you asked, Ayomi, apart from
Okay.
pol science and economics that really help in law, you need to have the ability, you need to be able to speak well, and you need to be
Okay.
able to stay calm under pressure. And you have to be
I
able to think on your feet. And you
right.
also have to be able to learn a lot of information. So if you're in high school right now and you're gonna go for law, go for debates, go practice extemporaries, practice speaking on the spot, and question yourself about things that are happening in the country right now. I mean, you have the CA, NRC, you have the farmers' protests, which just got over. Do you know what those laws are about? Do you know why there was such a big halla going on? You know, all of these things, you need to know what's going on and then take a position, take an opinion on what's going on and defend it. That's what I would say.
Okay.
If I may
Okay.
add to that again.
Sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Adya that public speaking is very, very important. I think more than what subjects you choose, I think it's public speaking, that confidence you have to speak, because it comes very handy when you're going for debates, especially when you're going for moot courts. That's when you know that, okay, I mean, it does not matter what subject you choose, the fact that you're able to stand before the judge and participate in that moot court, that's where your speaking skills, your oral skills come into handy, right? And regarding that lawyer and advocate question, I think at this point, in at least in India, in advocate, like lawyer is right, as you said, that degree milne se you become a lawyer. But for advocate, I don't think you need to specialize. As soon as you sit for the AIB exam, you become an advocate. So yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, relevant to litigation, I think when you're a practicing lawyer, when you become an advocate, and of course the exam.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. Okay. So this question is for you, Teresa. So since you're from NLU, and the question is, are private law colleges better? You are already in a government option. So do you think it would have been better if you were in a private law college, or are you satisfied with your choice?
This is something that I've said before, and it's something that a lot of people advocate. I'll personally tell you this: when it comes to national law university, I firmly believe that unless you get into the top 10 national law universities, I feel you shouldn't take it. And I've given my reasons, mainly that the infrastructure, the faculties, and all these kind of things have not been developed in the newer national law universities, due to which I
Okay.
think that private universities like Jindal, like Christ, like Simbi, they are much better alternative to what a lower NLU can offer, right? So unless you get into the top 10, NLUs, I feel that you should sit for the other private law university entrance exam. And if you get into that, well and good, take that.
Okay. Okay. Ayomi, you can take this question. After completing LLB, what is the approximate salary that's offered?
So I'll just give
Money.
on some careers. So corporate is obviously a little high. You get enough to sustain yourself early on in your career. I don't know the exact numbers, but corporate is definitely better in terms of money. You still have to do well, of course, in every field. And for litigation specifically, you won't be doing that well, because you need at least 8 to 10 years for your practice to take off. And so you have to have that support system, that financial support to practice as in the court, because first of all, the salary is not that high in courts. So my mother was practicing and she left her job because she realized it was not enough to sustain yourself after a certain point. So if you're headed for a lot of money, if you want to make a lot of money, corporate is the way to go. Or you can explore other options also. There are so many fields coming up now. And in-house counsel, so many options. But litigation is not something you will enjoy if you're not if you don't have a support system for yourself.
Okay.
I like
Okay.
if it's okay, money.
Sure. Please.
Yeah, what she said about this litigation not making money, it's true for the initial few years. I think I have seen personally, because I've interned under these senior advocates, I have seen them make money like nothing. I mean, each session, what they charge, I don't think even some corporate lawyers can even charge that kind of money. So depending, because I'll tell you, with corporate firms, I think they give you pretty standard, like it's a good package, right? Initially they'll give you, even as a freshman they'll give you 16 LPA or 20 LPA or something like that, right? For a lawyer, as in somebody who's venturing into mainstream litigation, initially the first couple of years it's going to be really harsh, right? But once the name gets around that you are the advocate to go for, I think they can't, even the best of the corporate people can't make that kind of money. So if you can stick around, carve a niche for yourself in the practicing world, in the courts, Supreme Court, High Court, it's gonna rain money. Honestly, it's gonna rain money. And the best thing about litigation is, it does not, you have the leeway, right? You are your own boss, which is not possible for corporate, which is why I've seen a lot of my seniors work for the initial few years in a corporate. Once they save up, then they start their own independent career, they independent practice and all, right? I think that gives them that freedom, they have that financial independence, and then they can carve a niche for themselves, make a name for themselves in the courts and everything. So money wise, yeah, I think as the more the more your name spreads around, the better an advocate you become, senior more advocate you become, I think the more money it comes your way.
Okay. So there's a question around internships. Adya, you can take this question. What is the best time for internships? Which is the best year? I think this is the question that's being asked by the student.
You start interning the as soon as you enter law school. We have you have about a month or 2 months break between each semester, 2 semesters a year, and you have 5 years. So you are supposed to intern every vacation. You intern, you go, and with interning you decide what you want to do, like Teresa and Naomi also talked about earlier. So you can start in the beginning with some NGOs, and then in your second year you can maybe work with some public policy groups, and then from your third year or even your second year onwards, because then you don't really know that much, you're just learning, and in your first couple of years you're making your basics in law. So once you've got that base set, then you start interning with advocates, and you help them with drafting, you help them with research, and when you know that, and when your advocate is arguing in the court and you've heard them speak and you know that this is something that you've helped them with, I think that's a good sense of achievement, that you've done something. So you start interning as soon as you go, and you have to ask people. No one's going to come up to you with a list and say, this is a list of internships, please choose which one you like. No one's going to do that. You have law class, you have so many websites online that are going to give you options. Talk to your friends, talk to your seniors. I think building a good rapport with your seniors and finding internships from them. A lot of my internships, my seniors told me, this is a good place to intern, this is what I learned, and I joined there, and I learned a lot too. So I think that's what I would say about internships. And there's a question about public speaking. A lot of law schools have debate societies as well. So even if you're not really good at speaking right off the bat, you can practice with your friends and get better at public speaking.
Okay. So I can see in the live Q&A section, there's a question around IP University. Ayomi, since you mentioned IP University in past question of yours, so why don't you take this question up? Is IP University good to pursue law? It has NIRF ranking of 12.
Yeah, so I have a lot of friends who are studying in IP University law. So they really like it, except the infrastructure, there's a lot of problems also in it. Of course, I think every college has problems, but I think if you want to study and if you want an affordable education, I think it's the best right now. Sadly, there are no better alternatives to it. But you have to self-study, I think. I think that works for every university. Frankly, you have to self-study. You don't have an option, because sometimes your professors will not be that great, or you won't be able to learn that well. But IP University has its pros also. They have good professors also. Just sometimes they don't show up. They have problems, of course, like I mentioned previously. But in the context of everything, affordability, learning, I think it's a pretty good option.
So, like every university has its pros and cons. IP University
Definitely.
has both too. Yeah.
Um,
All right. Okay. Adya,
I
do you
just
want to add something?
whatever university you go to, at the end of the day, it's your internships. And because there is a huge difference between what you learn in theory and what you see in the court and what you see in the lawyer.
Right.
So a lot, even if you've gotten into a university and it's not that great, everybody has to go through that same process. So you learn in the lawyer's chambers, and you learn when you go to court and you watch the hearings. So I would say that's a huge part. So even if you're not in that great university, you should not be disheartened, because the playing field at the end is the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The next question is by Shreya. And the question is, what is the scope and jobs in the international law field? Anyone who would like to voluntarily take this question?
Yeah, if you permit, I can, because
Yeah, sure.
I did explore, because international law is one of my favorite subjects, honestly. Public international law, again, not private international law, which is more like so in public international law, scope is really, really broad. It's really, really broad. Uske andar you can have space laws, maritime laws, and my personal favorite, refugee laws, international humanitarian laws. There is a lot of scope. And so what I have seen a lot of seniors pursue, that this in this particular field, is they go for LLMs in foreign universities which offer these amazing courses. And then you have these options to work in say international institutions, especially in UN bodies, right? Different organizations of UN. So this is one of the biggest scopes you have. Other than that, you in India in itself, you have a lot of firms that look for lawyers who specialize in international trade. So these are some of the I would say some of the more common subjects in under international law which you can pursue. But the other ones which are a bit different is, as I said, maritime law, and then space law. Space law is something that is really, really interesting. Then again, I've mentioned earlier that when it comes to artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency, the industry is literally booming. I mean, in US especially, I have seniors who are opting for these subjects, right? They're going to pursue these subjects. Like, there is a lot of craze for these subjects, a lot of jobs for these subjects, right? So these are really some of the great subjects that you can look into if you are interested in international law. These are a bit technical, but yes, these are very interesting. Depends on your interest as well, but really lucrative, really interesting.
Okay. All right. That answers the question. So there's another question by Jitendra Kothari, and the question is, if I'm not getting NLU, then do we need to drop a year? I think, Jitendra, our panelists have already answered this question. There are a number of good private universities or other universities that you can opt for if you're not getting into an NLU. Not getting an NLU is not the end of the world, is what I can maybe conclude so far.
Just
So
adding to it, there
yeah,
are scholarships available in private universities. So I've seen a lot of LSAT is a very interesting test to take. Personally, I really like taking it because it was not rote learning like CLAT. CLAT, of course, is the most well known, but LSAT actually tests your aptitude for law. in the most genuine sense. I think CLAT should become more like it. And if you do well in it, I think you get a very good scholarship. So I have a friend who got 99% in LSAT, and she has 100% scholarship in Jindal, which is why she chose to come, because she was being offered this kind of infrastructure, this kind of opportunity, because she did so well. So if you study well, and I think if you have the aptitude for it, you can get a great scholarship. That's another great option.
Okay. And now that we have people from both, we have students from both NLUs and private law colleges, there's a question which asks, what are the advantages and disadvantages of private law colleges versus NLUs in terms of internships, job opportunities in India and abroad? So let's hear it from Adya first, to hear the side of a private law school student, and then we'll see if Ayumi has something to add, and then we'll maybe move to Teresa to hear her side of the story. Adya, you can start.
Okay, so Jindal has a really good placement cell coming from a private university, and that has a lot of tie-ups with a lot of different law firms and with also with corporate companies. So everything depends on your resume, of course, but to get that internship, they will definitely, you can Jindal has a lot of also clinics. It has which specialize and they work in different areas of law. They have child rights, human rights, also criminal law. Jindal has a very good legal aid clinic. So when you're working with a national law university, our professors also get published in a lot of different law journals. And they are also working and collaborating with other law professors all over the world. So there is a really big network that you can access for whatever you're interested in. And for example, the professor who taught us jurisprudence last year is also one of the heads for Jindal's Law Review. And working under him, we got to know a lot about how to get published in these universities as well. So I think with a private law university, you have, there are a lot of connections that you can access because our professors come from really great colleges, and their body of work, when you access it, is amazing.
Okay. Ayumi, anything that you would like to add to this?
Yeah. So of course, what she said is true. You find a lot of connections. You get to know a lot of people through our professors. We actually have an associate dean for career development, so they can help you get internships, and we have an OCS. But I'm also going to offer the con side of it. As a private university, I think it's a very new development, or I don't know, but it's come to my attention very recently that a lot of people sort of discriminate based on our university. It's a little sad though, but I'm going to offer that perspective anyhow. Yeah. But a lot of lawyers, I think, feel that we come from a very privileged background. So they sort of say that, we don't want to take you on. We would much rather prefer an NLU student. So I think if you are from an NLU, there is a sort of preference I've seen coming up recently. I think it's a lot of our privilege, but that's the reality. But I think Jindal gives a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, like a coin has two sides. Private universities have their advantages and their disadvantages.
Definitely.
Okay, Teresa, moving on to you. What do you think are the advantages and disadvantages of studying at an NLU as compared to a private law college?
Okay, so first the pros. The first pro I was told is that the NLU tag will get you anywhere. Okay. That has become a con right now because that's not true. As I've told before, going into the specifics, it depends a lot on which NLU you are and which private university you're competing against, honestly. Right. So when you're talking about the first 5 NLUs, I don't think any private university can compete against those because those are the top 5 best universities when it comes to law, right? Then when you go down the ladder, right, that is when you consider other private universities like Jindal, like Christ, like Symbiosis, then they come into the rank as well, and that's where we are competing with them. So that is why I say that you should choose your preference accordingly, and especially when it comes to any NLU post the 10th rank, you should reconsider your decisions whether you want to take that or not. What does NLU provide per se? It provides diversity, right? It provides some of the good faculties. I have some of the best faculties when it comes to constitutional law, when it comes to this private international law. We have faculties who have worked with Supreme Court judges, with High Court judges, who have written books, who are known internationally for what they have contributed, etc. So these are some pros, but then again, when we are talking about universities like Jindal, I feel even they have these kind of advantages. So, but other NLUs might not, and other private universities might not. Coming to the cons, obviously, one of the con I have realized is that you might not always be able to adjust. To a particular national law university, I was not able to really adjust to my university initially, because I told you that cultural shock was there. But again, I think other than that, I think that would be the only con, because other than that, I think most universities are honestly similar, because most universities will have faculties where they'll come and teach you, but then you will realize that self study is the best, and then you will study on your own, and you will figure out what you want in your life, and you will ask your seniors for help, you will get the internships and everything. So this is what is there. And yes, we have the usual cells, like the career development cell. You have internship placements, and the this campus placement cells, and etc. You have these in NLUs. Again, when it comes to better, like the top 5 NLUs, they will immediately give you a job. They'll just say, okay, this is NALSA, this is NLS, fine, you have the job already, irrespective of your CGPA, irrespective of what you have done, you'll just get the job. This is something I feel that like the top few NLUs have the privilege. For the rest of us, we have to work hard. We have to get hold of any contact we can. Yes, some of the our faculties try to, because of their connections, because of their resources, we benefit to some extent. But otherwise, I think for most universities, it's about what you do with your time, what you do, what you put in your CV. So it's mostly you have to be a self-made person in the end. Your university will help you to some extent, and then the rest of it is you, just you. Yeah.
Yeah, so it just means that you need to work hard to get where you want to be, rather than just depending entirely on your university. Okay, I can see a question from Prince Raj, and this question is targeted to Teresa. Okay, Teresa, this question is, I'm from Bihar, so which university is good for me? Central University of South Bihar or CNLU? The
Definitely with this.
question says my question is from Teresa Didi. So yeah, I'm directing it to you.
Okay, thanks. So definitely CNLU, because it's a national law university, although CUSB is a pretty well-known university. But again, that depends on what subject is that person pursuing. If they want to go into law, they'll definitely sit for CLAT and then opt for, if that person gets through the list and everything, if they get allotted CNLU, then they should definitely opt for CNLU. Otherwise, CUSB is there.
Okay. One last question for each one of you. So the question is, yeah, can you share some memorable life-altering moments at the law school? Because this webinar is all about life of of a law student. So let's end with this question. So Anup, in meanwhile, you can also post the survey link. Dear students, you can fill in this survey so that we can improve in our further webinar sessions. Meanwhile, I think we can start with Adya this time. Please share a memorable or life-altering moment at the law school.
I think so. This is a so when I was in high school, I was a very good debater, and then in my 11th year, in 11th grade, I messed up very badly in a debate, and I was after that I became very I was saying I'm not going to take this opportunity. I was scared of speaking up. And when I went to law school, at least in my first and second year, it's very competitive. And for some reason, at least my particular section had a lot of competitive boys, and everybody, I was very unsure of what I would say. And this one time we had a debate in class, and this law school professor was also very encouraging. And we spoke, and it was like a concentrated debate on this specific topic, and we kept talking, and at the end of it, um, I just got so much confidence, and then I did really well because I knew my material, I knew what I wanted to say, and I needed that, like, that little push which my professor and my friends gave me. And I think that moment of realization that, I can do this, I'm good at it, and this is something that I want to do, is something that really reinforced my desire to also stay in law school. So I think that. And also, in general, you don't have maybe one memorable moment. You have a lot when you get recognized for the hard work that you do, when you help somebody out and they let you know that, you made a difference to my life, you've helped me out. I think law school is a lot of moments like that. And when you're really exhausted and it's 3 a.m. in the morning and you have a test tomorrow, and you're just sitting with your friends in the break room trying to figure out how to get through this together. I think law school has a lot of moments like that which make it very memorable.
Okay, Ayomi, over to you.
I think, yeah, like Adya said, there are a lot of moments. But I think one thing, so when I had finally chosen law, I had told my mother, so she asked me, why are you finally deciding this? I said, because I can imagine myself working day and night, studying day and night to be a lawyer. But I can't imagine that with any other field. And I remember when I first gave my exams, my first 10 sems, and I remember I enjoyed it so much. Just the feeling of working so hard, it's something which I enjoyed so much. Of course, people say law school is cumbersome, you have to study a lot. But I think every subject that I do study, I appreciate it. There are, of course, some subjects which I will find boring a little, but I think by the end of the day, I enjoy all the subjects I study. And I think that was a moment where I was like, I'm in the right place, I am, every other day, I still question myself. I'm like, am I doing the right thing? Should I just drop out? Should I not? And I think what I'm studying is what
that was the moment.
Yeah.
That was the moment of realization. All right. Okay. Teresa?
Yeah, okay. So again, as they said, that there are no memorable moments. If you realize your entire law school journey is one moment, and I think I consider it like that at this stage when I'm about to graduate in a couple of months. I'll say that I think I finally understood what law is about. It's not just good, but then it's not all bad. Because I remember this one time I was interning in the High Court, and there was this man who came up to me and he was like literally begging me and he was pleading with me and he's like, can you tell me where can I go to get justice? Because my lawyer took a lot of money from me and he is not helping me. So if there's anybody out there who's thinking law is all good and all great and everybody is out there to help you and justice, this constitution, this and that, it's not that. Judiciary has its pros, has its con. Law has its own hypocrisy that you will come to see in your course of law school, right? So it's not just all good. And that is what you will learn as a law student in your 5 years. You will learn that your faculty is not going to teach you everything that's out there to learn. Your internships you will not be able to learn anything maybe, because most seniors are not interested in spending their time in teaching you for free. You have to go out after 5 years and learn things on your own. Even in a corporate, If you go, they will not teach you anything, probably make you do clerical work, but that is what you have to be prepared for. You have to be prepared for that roller coaster ride, that ups and downs. You have to become a better human being. You have to become a better person, a better law student. You have to take the initiative to go for the DepSoc sessions. You have to participate in the moot courts that happen. You have to make sure that your resume is worthy of being looked at, and like people should be like, okay, this is the person I want them to work in my firm, or I want to hire this person as my junior or whatever. So every little moment, it does not matter, and it's not just academic, guys. It's not just academic. You will come across people who will teach you so many things. You will see so many people, all kinds of people, good kinds, bad kinds, who will teach you all kind of things. And if you learn those lessons and not make those mistakes further in life, that is when you know that you've learned something in your law school. That is when you know that you've become a better law student. Like in the end, it's all about what you do. Well, and I'm saying this because I've seen a lot of people through their contacts or resources, whatever, they get hold of internship, they have relatives and they go to, does not matter. A lot of people shame them, like, yeah, these people have it easier, right? Or a lot of people, for example, I'll be honest with you, in Jindal, as you said, that they have the privilege because they're paying that fees, and they have those facilities and all. In the end, it does not matter, because not all Jindal people are getting employed. It's just the people who make the best of it, people who decide, I'm not going to be average, I'm going to do something with my life, and they do something with their life, and then they present it in their resume. Those are the ones who get ahead in life. So you guys have to decide what moments am I going to take away from my 5 years or 3 years or whatever, and how am I going to make the best of these years. So that's the only advice or whatever thing that I can tell you guys, that so that you don't make the same mistakes as we did. You guys have to fight for
Yeah,
your own self, right?
correct. It's the passion that can take you to places, if I can say, yeah. So, all right, we have tried to answer as many questions as we can. If your query has still remained unanswered, I would like to request the students to visit the Ask and Answer section of Shiksha and post your queries there. We'll try to send them to our panelists and resolve them as soon as possible. With the feedbacks from all the three panelists, their learnings and their suggestions, we can conclude the biggest apprehension that the students or aspirants might have, which is if you don't get into a government law college or an NLU, there are a number of private colleges, in the country that you can opt for. It's not getting into a government law college is not the end of the world, but of course they are better options, they are good options, but they are not the end of the world. Also, there are no limitations in the scope of picking law as a career if you have the right skill set and zeal to excel in this field. So with this, I would like to thank all our panelists and students for their time. I hope this session will help you in making an informed career decision. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.